This JCN TV sports documentary is titled From the Depths I Rise. It's the story of professional boxer Tureano Dexter Johnson. Tureano Johnson is a talented young Bahamian fighter who rose to the level of contender in the middleweight division in the rough and tumble business of professional boxing. And it seems as though the road to success would be smooth sailing, with some great moments in the ring, including several impressive knockouts. It seemed like Tureano was on his way to getting the opportunity of a lifetime, the opportunity to fight for a world title. This opportunity would no doubt put him and the Bahamas back on the map of professional boxing. But then adversity hit. There was a number of major setbacks, including a couple of heartbreaking losses and a nagging shoulder injury that kept him out of the ring for the entire 2016 season and may have played a major role in his lost opportunity to fight for a world title. It was probably fitting that Tureano fell in love with the sport of boxing, as both his parents are also lovers of the sport. His father was a former boxer, and his mother has been a supporter of the sport in many facets. Most recently, she's entered to run for president of the Amateur Boxing Federation of the Bahamas. So it's obvious why Tureano fell in love with the sport of boxing, and so far, it's kept him out of the hands of the law.
We always encourage him to go there and do your best. Tureano, at the time, he was between swimming and boxing. I thought it would have been swimming for him. He's a fish in the water. Even now, he's probably out there on the waters right now, because that's what he spent most of his time doing. And Tureano, at the time, thinking about the Olympic dream, I'd sit down with him and I'd quiz him on what it is that he really wanted to do. He said, "Mommy, man, boxers, so people make boxers sound so ignorant, like they just illiterate." He says, "I don't know where it came from, but it sounds like, they can't speak and they don't never rise to be great." I said, "So what?" So he said, "I'm going to dispel the myth." I said, "Let's do it." And we wrote Tureano has in his biography. That's at the top of the page. The reason I can see further than most is because I stand on the shoulders of a giant. That really is Isaac Newton. That's where he got that one from. And he said, "I'm going to dispel the myth that boxers are dumb and ignorant."
Tureano had a decorated amateur career where he was considered one of the most dominant fighters in the North, Central American, and Caribbean region. In 2007, Tureano beat the odds and qualified for the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games. He used the months of training received in Cuba to improve his conditioning and his fighting techniques. Local opponents and coaches knew that Tureano had something special about him. Here's Quincy Thriller-Minute Pratt, once a decorated professional boxer, talking about his first experiences with Tureano.
Yeah, I followed his career from the amateurs. In fact, I remember refereeing his first amateur fight, and I saw the potential. But what really amazed me with Tureano was that when I was first added as an assistant coach with the national team, and I was so impressed when we went to the first game that we went to the Cabo Games. Actually was held in USVI. And what amazed me most was that all of the other athletes in other countries, they were afraid of him. I mean, it was like, "Is Tureano? Is he here? Is he here? Is he here?" And that's when I realized how gifted he was.
In Beijing, Tureano won his first two matches against opponents from Grenada and the Ukraine before losing to the hometown favorite Hannadi Salumu from China in the third round of the competition, ending his Olympic dream of winning a gold medal. It was time to move on.
After the Olympic, Tureano represented the country on the world stage. All the countries of the world that is on that medal were in attendance or by airway or otherwise. Tureano cried when he was in the ring and touched her heart because he wanted so badly to do what he promised the Bahamian people. He said, "I will bring home a medal, not just any medal, a gold medal." And he fought his heart out. I mean, he trained, and I mean, to the point where when we look at his body, he was really ripped, from conditioning. And my husband was pleased, and like, I'm sure that his trainers were pleased. And after the decision, that we were just short of the Olympic medal, now it's time to make a decision. We had good consultation. When the time came, I prepared my son. Said that, I made several phone calls, and here it is now. We have an opportunity to speak to some of the greatest promoters and managers in boxing.
Not long after his Olympic experience, Tureano made the decision to enter the muddy sports of professional boxing. If you listen to Tureano today, a man in his 30s, he's long accepted that boxing is more than just a sport.
Boxing is not a sport, it's a lifestyle. You can play basketball, you can play volleyball, you can even play football, but you can't play boxing.
Tureano jumped into the boxing game head first. The beginning of his career went smoothly as he racked up victory after victory. In fact, he won 14 straight fights, including a few impressive knockouts, you might say, getting his feet wet in the pros. Tureano's first big opportunity to make a serious climb in the world rankings came when he stepped into the ring with the hard-hitting Curtis Stevens in a fight in Philadelphia in April of 2014. For much of the fight, Tureano used his gritty, brawling style of fighting to overwhelm Stevens and surprise the boxing world for much of the fight. He had the more experienced and the favorite to win. Stevens rocked several times and was clearly winning on points. But in the game of boxing, every fighter knows all too well it only takes one well-placed punch to turn the tables. The young fighter from the Bahamas let his guard down, and Stevens took full advantage and landed a shot that rocked Tureano, who was obviously stunned but still trying to hold on, while Stevens missed with several wild follow-up shots. The referee surprisingly stopped the fight with 1 minute to go in the 10th and final round, snatching an obvious victory out of the hands of Tureano Johnson. A devastating way to lose. Tureano was in disbelief immediately after the fight and for a long time after. But when reality set in, he had to accept the fact that he lost the fight, and again, it was time to move on. Despite such a major setback, Tureano did not fall into the depths, but showed the heart of a champion, and he used the support around him from family and friends to fight his way back into title contention. He regained his confidence and got back to work training, knowing that in this business, he would have to prove himself all over again, worthy of a title shot by defeating one challenger at a time.
I was going to rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody like me. There's no one like me. I'm from Airport. There's no one that can match me.
I'm ready.
Everything seemed to be going well in 2015, and Tureano began to rack up the wins once again. He began a new win streak, winning 6 fights in a row, including wins over formidable fighters like Alex Tureano. He defeated Iman O'Kane. And he also got an impressive victory over Fabiano Pina. Things were beginning to look positive again. and Tureano could see his goal in reach when adversity hit yet again. He suffered a shoulder injury while training, which caused him to miss the entire 2016 season. It was the year where he was an IBF mandatory challenger and considered to be the likely candidate to fight Gennady Golovkin, Triple G, in an April 23rd main event title fight. Exactly what he'd been hoping for. However, despite a shoulder injury and lack of activity in the ring in 2016, Tureano had already let it be known that he would fight anyone in his way of reaching a title, and he had already put in the work. He had started a new win streak following his loss to Stevens. He had gotten the attention of the promoters, other contenders, and the federations for the second time in his career. But was the timing right? Tureano was pegged as a top contender for the IBF elimination match versus fellow former Olympian, Ukraine's Sergei Derevchenko, a 31-year-old. The winner would become the IBF's mandatory challenger for its middleweight 160-pound division champion, Gennady Golovkin, Triple G as the boxing world has come to know him. Exactly what Tureano had been seeking his entire career, a fight against the current world champion. But not being completely healthy, was this the opportunity that Tureano had so badly longed for? Or was this a blessing in disguise, yet another mountain to climb? Tureano had a tough decision to make. If he did not accept the fight at the time, he risked losing his spot in the top 10 world ranking, which would throw years of hard work and training down the drain. So needless to say, he accepted the fight despite missing the 2016 season and having just one fight in March of 2017. It's the nature of the business. Professional boxing can be cutthroat. If you're injured, nobody cares. Be ready or somebody else will gladly take your spot. A lot of Bahamians tuned in on August 25th for the big fight at Buffalo Run Casino in Miami, Oklahoma. Many expected to see Tureano seize the moment, pressure his opponent, and dominate like he usually does. But it soon became clear that he was not the same fighter that we had become accustomed to seeing in the ring. His heart was in it, but he appeared to be extremely sluggish. Early in the fight, Tureano tried to exact his will, but the Ukrainian began to beat him to the punch and landed consistent clean shots for the second and third rounds. Needless to say, it was a long night for Tureano. Derevchenko went on to win the fight in his career best performance, stopping Tureano by TKO in the 12th round. It was only the second time that Tureano had tasted defeat in his career, and it was a taste he had grown to dislike. In fact, he's disgusted by it. His professional record fell to 20-2 with 14 knockouts, at the time an uncertain world ranking. Since the loss to Derevchenko, Tureano was pleased to learn that he did remain in the top 10 world ranking, barely at number 9. Despite still being highly ranked, Tureano has seemingly been pushed almost into pro boxing obscurity, both locally and internationally. It seemed as if he had fallen off into the depths and nobody cared. So, we wanted to find out exactly what is Tureano Johnson up to these days. After coming so close to getting an opportunity to fight for a world title and seeing it slip away, does Tureano Johnson still have the dedication, the desire, the dream of becoming a world boxing champion? Will Tureano Johnson rise and fight again? Only one man could answer that question. He invited us to one of his workouts at the Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium.
But indeed, since the August 25th fight, it was a difficult fight. I fought a tremendous athlete, a good fighter. I must say, Derevchenko, he went to the 2008 Olympic with me. That's awesome. and we were able to share the square circle together. But indeed, he's an awesome fighter. Unfortunately for me, I had lost that fight, and yeah, there's a lot to go behind that fight on reasons, but the truth be told that, I never have any excuse. I only bring results, and indeed, I gave my best in that fight. I didn't just stick in there, but I tried my best to perform.
You alluded to something, I hate to cut you off, but you alluded to something. We understand that there may have been, you may not have been 100% in that fight. Do you care to tell us about that?
Well, I can't elaborate on so much as far as the health-wise, but indeed, in fact, that 100% of all of my fights, I have never been 100% complete, and indeed, it was just one of those fights that it didn't just attack a physical, but it also attacked my mental. And that's when it became very devastating, because my fight game is 80% in my mind, 80% of thinking. And indeed, I was attacked on that level, but indeed, I've grown much more inclined to understand how to deal with situations and circumstances as such. So indeed, I am more prepared than I was then. I may have lost that fight, but I am winning the war. So we're up to some very, very awesome things to come in the future.
In relation to the shoulder injury, we asked Tureano exactly where he was as it relates to his comeback, and was he working on his style of fighting that has received some criticism over the years.
Very observing question you asked, and indeed, that is something I have observed myself, critiquing myself. And yes, I am my greatest and biggest critic, and I am working hard and cleaning up and brushing off, the rust that has been, because one of the problems that I had was inactivity, and inactivity was due to injuries.
And people scared to fight you.
Ain't that something? A small guy from a 242 country, Bahamas, and people scared to fight me. But of course, I do pose a tenacity, a resilience to change my style in the ring, in and out of the ring. So yeah, I could understand why a lot of fighters wouldn't fight me, but at the same time, my injuries had made it very difficult for me to compete. But right now, how do I feel? I feel great. I would say, I believe Jesus loved me more than he loved anybody else, because I am stronger than I was before. Believe it or not, I couldn't believe that I was throwing punches the wrong way all of my career. Was able to make it to the climax of my career, making it to the #1 contender. Now just imagine now that I've already cleaned up that issue on learning how to punch with accuracy and power. I think we're going to have a very devastating Tureano to come.
Well, it's been nearly a year since the Derevchenko fight, and the middleweight division in both the WBO and IBF continues to churn with hungry fighters looking for a shot at a title and perhaps a big money fight. At this stage of his career, Tureano is 22-2 with 14 knockouts, still ranked 9th in the world, so all is not lost. According to Mrs. Johnson, Tureano was ready to step up to the professional level, although disappointed with his Olympic experience.
And mentally, I believe that it had, it affected him. But he didn't let that deter him. He's had, like I said, multiple injuries. And as he was going through his medical treatments and what have you, I believe at one point he figured that, I'm not going to be as well as I need to be in a quick way. So he had to put on the whole man. And so I know that his direction had even turned closer to his Creator, the Lord Jesus. And he prayed, and he earnestly prayed. And he has the foundation. He has grown, we have trained him well in his Christian beliefs. And so he knows that nothing beats it other than prayer. Prayer changes everything. And so we know that that inner man in him, that came out, it came on the outside. So as he began to build confidence, he built confidence and his body began to develop again. In all of those muscles and pains, he was able to overcome that injury because he knew that God had created him to be great. Tureano's gift, and this is what we preach to him, your gift will make room for you and usher you in the presence of greatness. So it has nothing to do with what man would offer you. It is in you. Allow it to come out of you. And that is what Tureano did. Yes, the moments have been sometimes depressing. Sometimes he figured his support was weak. He has a family. Tureano's love and passion for boxing didn't allow him to forget family. He encompassed all of that in his development.
Yes, he has some work to do and will likely need a couple big wins to get his name back in the ring for Contender. and he's ready to get that process started with hard work from the crack of dawn until sunset. The last few years have been tough for Tureano, but he says, thanks to God and a strong family unit beginning with his wife Netanya, in the face of her own struggles, she has been a rock for him, while their young daughter Tatiana has been the center of their world. And there has never been a time that passes when he doesn't acknowledge the role of his mother or father, the role they played in his life. With their support, he was able to make it through the physical and mentally tough times over the last few years. In addition to his family being here, there's something special the Bahamas has to offer to help with peace of mind and relaxing, something that Tureano couldn't find in Florida or Georgia in the United States. And luckily for him, it's right in his own backyard.
But indeed, my folks back in the United States, as far as my lawyer and my wife here, they're urging me to head back to the United States for training, promotion, and so on. But I decided to go against the odds. A lot of folks said, you got to leave the comfort of home to succeed. And I have been succeeding, and I've been home for quite a while. I try my best to stay as long as I can. As you can see, I'm working out on the beach here, throwing the tires, working in the sand, shadow boxing, and so on. This helped me, to be able to garner the strength. All I lack here is the sparring partners. But other than that, I think training back home here in the Bahamas is awesome.
During the filming of this documentary, Tureano was awaiting to hear from promoters in the United States who wanted him to fight on the undercard of a major show, namely the Canelo Alvarez vs. Gennady Triple G Golovkin rematch on HBO pay-per-view. Unfortunately, the negotiations did not work out. While Tureano is ready to rumble, he says he cannot be too eager to step into the ring with just anybody, looking to use him to climb the ladder when there's nothing for him to gain from a fight.
Well, the negotiation of boxing is one of the very complex and very difficult, but I thank God that he has given me the discerning spirit to know when to say yes and know when to say no. We advised to fight a former world champion, David Lemieux, and he had chose not to come in this direction. Apparently, him and a lot of other fighters, they're afraid to fight. And so I don't blame them. These guys, they aren't suicidal, so they wouldn't step in the ring with me. But, as far as choosing an opponent, we're just going to wait until the right offer comes by again. Of course, they're giving me a few options, but of course, they weren't in my best interest. I fight at 160 pounds. I right now walk around at 182. Of course, that is 22 pounds above the weight limit of my weight. But right now, we're working on power. I haven't knocked out an opponent for quite a while, and we're looking at, we have to knock out these guys when you're in the top 10 in the world. And of course, they come strong and they come hard and they come tougher. So yes, I'm working as hard as I possibly can, and a few gains of the weight, it's gonna worth it.
During his career, Tureano has been a boxer that promotes the Bahamas heavily at every one of his fights. While filming this documentary, we had to ask him if he thinks he gets enough support from the Bahamas or Bahamians in general.
Well, I must say, the Ministry of Tourism has done a great deed for me. Both former and current administration, they have done a great deed for me. They have supported me, and I am thankful to God for that. The new administration showed no issues with me, knowing that yes, the last administration did support me. My family is always there. That's my backbone. I fight to make my country proud. I fight, to provide for my family, but I fight because this is what I was born to do. I was born to fight. And indeed, my family that plays a vital role in that, and indeed, I'm grateful for even that. But I could use some more support. I must say that, yes, boxing has been overlooked. But maybe it could be my own mental state of mind to think that, boxing is the cure for most of the social ills that goes on in this country today, as far as idle hands with the young men today. But, I stick to my belief that boxing is the cure.
With sports here in the Bahamas, what I would like to see happen, especially with boxing, is the government to put the drive behind Tureano. Because look at this is a tough sports. And right now, the very field now, but boxing overall, especially the amateur program, man, is just zip, man, just under the rope. And listen to me, amateur boxing saved my life. And what I would like to see, I would like to see the government or even the private sector help the amateur boxing program, because amateur boxing is discipline. It disciplines the young men and give them a new outlook on life.
If there's one thing we learned while filming this documentary, it is that the fire is still burning in Tureano B. Johnson, professional boxer. He will rise from the depths and he will fight again.